Hi, and welcome to Cenario, your partner in mental wellness. Here on our channel, we share educational, insightful, and science-backed content to help you understand your mental health and take meaningful steps toward a more balanced life. If you're ready to learn, grow, and take control of your wellness journey, let's jump right in.
You know the feeling. It's 3 a.m., you are wide awake, and you start to wonder, am I just wired this way? Is my struggle with sleep literally in my DNA? Well, today we're going to dig into that, and I think you'll find the answer is pretty surprising.
Yeah, we have all been there. Staring at the ceiling, your mind is just racing, and you can't help but ask if this nightly battle is some kind of genetic inheritance, like a frustrating family heirloom you never, ever ask for.
But what if I told you that the science here isn't a story about your destiny being sealed? What if it's actually a story about opportunity? The real answer is so much more interesting and, honestly, a lot more hopeful than you might think.
Okay, so to really get a handle on that opportunity, we've got to look at the genetic link first. Just how much of our sleep is actually written in our DNA? Let's find out.
So, when you look at big family and twin studies, the research suggests that insomnia is somewhere between 30 and 60% heritable. Now hold on, that does not mean your genes are 60% responsible for your bad night. Think of it more like this. Heritability just explains why insomnia might run in some families more than others across a huge population. It's not a personal fortune teller for your sleep.
Right, and this is the most crucial point to get. Having a genetic predisposition simply means you have an increased vulnerability. It's not a guarantee. Your genes might make you a little more sensitive to things that mess with sleep, but they absolutely do not sentence you to a lifetime of insomnia. And this is where the balance of power really shifts back to you. I mean, look at this. While your genetic risk is definitely a piece of the puzzle, it's a smaller piece. The combined influence of your lifestyle and your environment, that plays a much, much bigger role. It's not just about the hand you're dealt, it's all about how you play your cards.
So if genes aren't the whole story, what exactly is their role? How do they actually influence us? Let's dive into the science of what's really going on inside our brains.
First things first, let's bust a major myth. There is no single insomnia gene that you either have or you don't. It's way more complex than that. Think of it like a recipe with hundreds of ingredients. Insomnia is influenced by many, many different genes, and each one just contributes a tiny little bit to the overall picture.
So instead of one master gene, think of it as a whole team of genes that can influence the key systems that control our sleep. They can fine-tune the neurotransmitters that help us feel calm, they can adjust our internal body clock, they can tweak how we handle stress, and even affect how well our brain recovers overnight.
And get this genetic influence isn't some fixed thing you're born with and that's it. It actually changes throughout our lives. The genes that might affect a kid's sleep could be different from the ones that pop up during the teenage years, or the ones that stabilize when we become adults. It's a really dynamic process.
All right, this brings us to the most important part of our whole explainer, the dance between your genes and your world. This right here, this is where you start to take back control.
Just look at this comparison. It puts everything into perspective, doesn't it? On one side, sure, your genes might give you a slightly more sensitive stress response system, or a body clock that's a bit easier to knock off track. But on the other side, it's your environment, your daily habits, your schedule, that actually determines whether those sensitivities ever turn into a real sleep problem.
Let's make this super concrete. Say your genes make you more sensitive to stress. If you're in a high-pressure job, well, your risk for insomnia goes up. Or maybe you have variations in your clock genes, and you work the night shift. You're probably going to struggle way more. It's like your genes set the stage, but your lifestyle is what directs the play.
So, knowing all this, how do we actually take control? Let's get into the practical, actionable toolkit for building a better sleep future, no matter what your genes might have to say about it.
And here is the single most empowering message of all. You do not need some kind of special, secret treatment just because you might have a genetic predisposition. The gold standard, evidence-based strategies, they work for everyone because they target the thoughts and behaviors that keep insomnia going, and that's true regardless of your DNA.
So, what should you try first? Well, the #1 recommended treatment is called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBTI. It's not a pill, it's a program that helps you rewire the way you think and act when it comes to sleep. Learning to get out of bed when you can't sleep, instead of just lying there worrying. You pair that with the fundamentals, like a super consistent schedule and being smart about light exposure, and these steps can be incredibly powerful.
This is a question that comes up all the time.
With all these at-home genetic testing kits out there, it is so tempting to look for answers in your DNA. But is it actually worth it? Okay, here's the reality check. Let's be really clear. These tests cannot diagnose you with insomnia, they cannot tell you with any certainty if you'll develop it, and they are absolutely not a substitute for talking with a real, live doctor about your sleep. At best, they might give you a tiny little piece of background info, but they definitely don't give you a roadmap.
So as we start to wrap this up, let's bring it all together. It's really time to reframe this whole story, to move from a narrative of genetic destiny to one of personal empowerment.
You know, this quote from the source material just says it all perfectly. Your genes are simply the starting point. They're the first paragraph of your story. They are not the final chapter. The rest of those pages, they are yours to write, with your choices, your habits, and your actions.
So now that you know you're the one holding the pen, I'll just leave you with this question. What's the first thing you're going to do to write your next, more restful chapter?
Thank you for watching Cenario. If this video helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. For personalized mental wellness supplements, visit Cenario.com. See you in the next one.